As you're watching this video, a little known game called Silksong is going to be out probably at the same time this piece goes up, and it is a very exciting time all around. But for today's critical thought, I want to talk about something a little bit odd I've been noticing and some very strange behavior I'm seeing, and surprisingly, it's not coming from the gamers. Silksong has been this mythical white whale of indie game development. Will it ever be released? Will it ever have any information coming out year after year, conference and showcase after showcase? People were wondering, pleading, and hoping for any kind of tidbits or snippets or whatever of information. But then of mid-August of 2025, Team Cherry just showed up and said, we're done, we're going to be releasing the game in a few weeks. And it just created chaos and pandemonium. But gamers all around have been, well, jumping for joy and celebrating and getting all their countdowns in order. But as the stinger, as I said, there's been some very unusual behavior coming from, well, journalists and other game developers, and some very, weird things I've been noticing on social media. So the first thing came with this piece from Polygon, who were complaining that Team Cherry is very disrespectful, or, it's not right for them to just have a kind of shadow release, or, a me-release announcement. It was only fair they should give, journalists a few weeks heads up to prepare a story and, get those day one clicks. And that was just the tip of the iceberg. Then I saw developers seeming to be getting very angry and annoyed with Team Cherry for just deciding to show up with a game. And it's left a lot of people just kind of flying or, trying to steer rudderless in a way. We've saw developers and studios delaying games, and it's normal to delay a game, the week of, especially the day of a major release. It's why we don't see many game releases on, the day that Call of Duty comes out, or Grand Theft Auto, or pick any major AAA title. But to hear some developers and publishers having their games being delayed by months and weeks is quite odd. Demon School was a game that I was really looking forward to playing, and I had the game installed, waiting for the embargo to lift, and then 4 days from that embargo, I got an email saying that the game has been delayed for several months. And there are a lot of people who are angrily talking to Team Cherry, posting about on social media, blaming Team Cherry for stuff like this. And as I said, in all the years I've been watching and covering the game industry and the game dev, I've never seen anything like this. And there were even developers complaining that Team Cherry's pricing the game too cheap. How dare they charge $20 for Silksong? It should at least be $40, $50, or even $60 because it's going to ruin for everyone else. And I have never heard anyone, especially any game devs, talk bad about another studio or be angry at another indie game studio like this. And as I said, this is just a very odd piece of behavior that I really don't like to see. And there's several points about this. So the first one is that to the kind of Polygon and game journalist side, no studio owes you a courtesy or a super heads up to get you clicks or to give you information ahead of the curve. It is up to a studio to announce when a game comes out. We even saw this with Firaxis, with their releases for XCOM, that they put out the reveal, and it was a month or two, I think it was 3 months. And again, for every people or every person who's complaining about Team Cherry releasing a game so soon, there are hundreds at this point, even more indie developers who are all trying to get even just a brief mention about their game on major sites like IGN, Polygon, and so on. So I'm not losing any sleep over the fact that major news sites aren't going to be able to kind of string along news bits and articles for weeks and months about Silksong. Now, from the game development side, again, you can always, delay a game or you can push it back to avoid major release, but pushing things back weeks or months is just not exactly the best strategy. And especially something with Demon's School, with their now, I think, launch either end of October or early November, now they're running into this period where it's going to be kind of bumping into the holiday season with the major AAA releases. And as a very important point, this did not come from the developer. This came from the publisher who decided to make this change. And it's just not, I think, a really sound strategy for an indie game. Again, if we're talking about a major game, like a Nintendo, Rockstar, EA, Activision, stuff like that, they can push their game back, and that game, becomes a new major event. For an indie game studio, it doesn't really work that way. And then there's the other point about people complaining about how Hollow Knight is setting a bad standard, or Silksong is setting a bad standard for having the game come out too cheaply. This is just, again, wrong. There's just no other way to describe it. Every game has a different price point. As we've said, the pricing of indie games have fluctuated over the past 15 years. We are way beyond the era of the race to the bottom, with games being priced at $4.99. And it is every developer's right to price a game however they see fit. Whether they want to go for a $14.99, $20, $30, $40, $50. We even saw stuff like Mimi Games in their heights publishing their games for $30, $40 a pop. And there's no such thing as, like a quality or a prestige tax that should go with a game. And to hear people complaining about this with Silksong, again, just strikes me as some very odd behavior from a lot of developers. And there's another major point about this. I think a lot of people are massively overcompensating for Silksong's impact. And this was something that I talked about in my Metroidvania deep dive video, which you should all watch, is that while Hollow Knight is one of the most celebrated and one of the most recognizable Metroidvanias of the past 15 years, it also came with a massive churn that over 50% of the player base did not get over an hour or two into the game. Many people did not even get past the first time they visited the capital. And what that means is that despite its huge sales, I don't see it earning or having the same level of success as the base game. And this is not, again, like a smack against Hollow Knight or Team Cherry. It's just the nature of sequels. The first of any major franchise or any major game success will get additional boosts just because of word of mouth and being the first game. When we're up to the second, third, or whatever, it's very solidified as to who that audience is. You're not going to be just randomly checking out a game that's on its fourth version when you've already tried the first or the second one and it didn't work for you. And I have no doubt that Silksong is going to be a very solid game. But to kind of put it into this pedestal that it is just an atomic bomb that is going to drop on game dev, indie game dev, and game journalism as a whole in September is just very incorrect when it comes to this stuff. And as I said, this behavior is just very unbecoming. No studio, again, deserves to give game journalists a heads up about their game. If you want to cover a game, there are plenty of other games out there for you to talk about. And from the development side, again, if you're expecting Hollow Knight to completely dwarf the sales of a real-time strategy, a horror game, a visual novel, or anything else, it's not. The market for Hollow Knight is a very specific kind of preference of its Metroidvania design, as I talked about. And while, again, there will be people who may have missed and somehow never heard of Hollow Knight before, and they may check out Silksong just because, it's still not as major event as I think everyone is, making it out to be. And it does make me wonder about what this means for major game successes going forward. That a lot of the huge name games that kind of punctuated the 2010s, FTL, Slay the Spire, Stardew Valley as we played, we haven't seen direct sequels to those yet. When those games are becoming more recognized or they're about to come out, are people going to complain about them in the same way as Hollow Knight? That, how dare you release this game if it's not priced at least $20 plus the $40 mega hit tax? Or you have to give everyone at least 3 to 6 months heads up to make all these speculation and theory videos and articles to get all the clickbait out there. It just is, again, very unbecoming of everyone around. And as I said in the stinger, for the first time in like a very long time, all like the gamer side of things have been relatively chill about that. People are excited, but they're not really caring about the fact that it's coming out so soon, or if they're not interested in the game, they got plenty of other titles to play. So if you are very angry at Silksong and you want to stick it to them, be sure to buy all the copies of my Metroidvania book. That is now not accurate because it was written before Silksong was announced. And if you want to support Silksong, be sure to buy all the many copies of my Metroidvania book because I talked a whole lot about Hollow Knight. How do you all like that as a way of playing both sides? To wrap things up though, seriously for this video, for people out there watching this, what do you think about Team Cherry's strategy? Do you think they ruffled any feathers along the way? Do you think that the game is going to be this, just complete domination of video game sales for the rest of 2025? My prediction that may or may not come back to haunt me in a few months is I think the game is going to do very well, but I do not think it's going to hit the same numbers as Hollow Knight did. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Maybe you'll come back to watch this video in 6 months, a year, 5 years time to let me know if I'm right or horribly wrong. But normally with these videos, I can't tell you what we're going to be playing later today. But with this video going up exactly on September 4th, be sure to come back later as I'll be diving into Silksong and playing it and hopefully getting good once again at the game. And with that, thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the Silksong release, and hopefully we'll survive the Silksong apocalypse together. Thanks for watching, and a special thank you to our Patreon supporters. If you enjoyed the video, do the YouTubing stuff, be sure to visit our Discord and Patreon, and you're interested in more in my thoughts on design, check out my game design books.